My wife's high school sweetheart defaulted on a $10 million construction contract, and my wife, the company's finance manager, planned to embezzle public funds to pay off his debt. When I found out, I lied about being in a car accident to stop her from making a terrible mistake. But because of this, her old flame was hounded by unpaid workers and accidentally fell from a building to his death. When my wife heard of her lover's death, her expression was calm, even indifferent. On our wedding anniversary, she, who rarely cooked, even prepared a special meal for me. "You've worked so hard all these years, honey. From now on, let's live a good life together." I was deeply moved and devoured the meal. But it wasn't until I suddenly started vomiting blood and convulsing on the verge of death that I saw the monstrous expression on my wife's face. If you weren't such a good-for-nothing who couldn't come up with $10 million, would I have had to embezzle company funds? You got him killed. You're going to go down there and get on your knees and apologize to him yourself. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I discovered my wife was embezzling the money. Chapter 1. My eyes snapped open. I found myself standing outside the finance department at my company, my hand clutching the bank statement that had changed my life. Is this... I've been reborn? My fingers trembled uncontrollably. The sharp numbers on the statement seared my eyes. Victoria Vance, my wife, the company's finance manager, was preparing to embezzle $10 million in company funds to cover the debt of her high school sweetheart, Julian Croft. The memories came flooding back. In my past life, after I discovered this, I lied about being in a car accident to stop her from committing a crime. Victoria, frantic with panic, canceled the transfer and rushed to the hospital to find me. And Julian, because he didn't get the money in time, was cornered at the construction site by workers demanding their pay. He lost his footing and fell to his death. I thought the matter was over. When Victoria learned of Julian's death, she was unnervingly calm, which led me to mistakenly believe she had moved on. On our wedding anniversary, the woman who never cooked prepared a meal herself, telling me gently, "You've worked so hard all these years, honey. From now on, let's live a good life together." I was so moved I almost cried, completely unaware that the meal was laced with a potent poison. Ugh. The moment blood sprayed from my mouth, I saw the monstrous look on Victoria's face. "If you weren't such a good-for-nothing who couldn't come up with $10 million, would I have had to embezzle company funds?" Victoria sneered, watching me convulse at her feet. "You got him killed. You're going to go down there and get on your knees and apologize to him yourself." An icy chill shot up my spine. I stared intently at the statement in my hand. The date confirmed it. This was the day I first discovered her embezzlement. Chapter 2. Director Clark, are you all right? Sam from the finance department looked at me quizzically as I stood stunned in the doorway. "I'm fine." I forced a smile, folding the statement and stuffing it into my pocket. "Is Manager Vance in her office?" "Yes, she was just asking about you a moment ago." I took a deep breath and pushed open the door to the finance manager's office. Victoria was frowning at her computer screen. When she saw me, she quickly switched the window. "Honey, what are you doing here?" Victoria greeted me with her usual gentle smile and rose to meet me. If I hadn't been reborn, I would never have imagined what a venomous heart hid beneath that beautiful face. "I was just passing by, thought I'd come see you." I walked closer, feigning nonchalance, my eyes sweeping over her computer screen. It was a wire transfer interface, and the amount field already had a 1 followed by 7 zeros. "Want to get lunch together?" Victoria linked her arm through mine affectionately. She was wearing my favorite jasmine perfume. In my past life, I was completely fooled by this facade, believing she truly loved me. "Sure," I nodded with a smile, while also noticing that her desk drawer was slightly ajar, revealing the corner of a document, a debt summary for Julian Croft's construction company. The memory flashed back again. As I lay dying, I had struggled to ask her, "Why, I loved you so much." "Love?" Victoria crouched down, her tone mocking, and poked my forehead with a finger tipped in blood-red nail polish. "If you weren't moderately well off, do you think I would have married you?" Julian is the one I love from high school until now. It's always been him. A sharp pain lanced through my heart. Our 10-year marriage was nothing but an elaborate scam. Honey, you don't look so good. Victoria reached out to feel my forehead. I instinctively flinched, and her expression stiffened for a second. Maybe my blood sugar is a little low. I managed a weak smile. You finish up. I'll come get you at lunchtime. Leaving her office, I went straight to the company rooftop. I needed to calm down and think about my next move. In my last life, I chose to stop her, and it got me killed. I wouldn't be so foolish this time. Since you love him so much, willing to commit crimes and even kill for him, then I'll grant you your wish. I took out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in a long time. Henry, old friend. I hear you're at the Financial Regulatory Authority now. I need a favor. After hanging up, I looked towards the window of Victoria's office in the distance, a cold smirk playing on my lips. This time, I won't be soft-hearted. I'm going to watch her bring about her own destruction, and then, at her most desperate moment, I'll deliver the final blow. A cold wind blew past. I pulled the bank statement from my pocket, slowly tore it into pieces, and let the wind scatter them. Just like our sham of a marriage, it would all turn to dust. Chapter 3. After hanging up with my friend at the authority, I glanced at my watch, 11:40 a.m. I had 20 minutes before I was supposed to meet Victoria for lunch. That was enough time to do some prep work. I went back to my office, locked the door, and took a brand new USB drive from the back of a drawer. In my past life, my absolute trust in Victoria led to me being poisoned. This time, I would gather every piece of evidence that could seal her fate. The main finance department area was empty. It was the lunch rush. I quickly inserted the USB drive and pulled up the transfer logs from the past week. Just as I suspected, Victoria had already made several small test transfers from the company's Employee Wellness Fund account. The recipients were all shell companies. So professional, I sneered, copying all the records. These test transfers were all under $50,000. Spread across different dates. Without a specific investigation, they would never have raised any red flags. Suddenly, a new email notification popped up. The sender was Victoria. I hesitated for a second and clicked it open. Mr. Croft, the funds are ready. They will arrive before 3 p.m. today. Please confirm the receiving account is correct. Lynn, the body of the email was just that single line. But the account information in the attachment made my pupils constrict. It wasn't Julian's public company account, but a private account at an offshore bank. I see. I quickly forwarded it to my encrypted email and then deleted the sent record. No wonder the police investigation in my past life found no direct evidence of the transfer. They were using a hidden channel. Director Clark, what are you doing here? Wendy, a junior assistant in finance, suddenly appeared at the door holding her lunchbox. I calmly pulled out the USB drive. Manager Vance forgot her drive. I came to grab some files for her. Oh. Wendy's eyes darted around, clearly not buying it. This recent graduate had always been fiercely loyal to Victoria. In my past life, she was the one who helped Victoria destroy some of the evidence. I walked out of the finance department nonchalantly and nearly ran into Victoria at the corner of the hallway. Honey? Victoria looked at me, surprised. Didn't you say you were coming to get me for lunch? Chapter 4. I held up the USB drive. I was just passing by finance and remembered you needed these files. The excuse was full of holes, but Victoria seemed distracted and didn't press the issue. You must be hungry. I ordered from your favorite Japanese place. I put my arm around her waist, the motion so natural it surprised even me. It turned out playing the part of a clueless husband was this simple. At the restaurant, Victoria nibbled on her sashimi, her gaze distant. I noticed her phone screen light up 3 times, and each time she quickly silenced it. Work been busy lately? I poured her a glass of sake. Yeah, the quarterly audit. Victoria took a sip, leaving a print of her red lipstick on the rim of the cup. A detail that once charmed me now only reminded me of the same color on her lips as she poisoned me. By the way, I asked, as if it were an afterthought, I heard Julian Croft's construction company is in trouble. Victoria's chopsticks froze mid-air.
How? How did you know? It's all over the office, I shrugged.
They're saying he's not paying his workers, and it's getting pretty messy. Victoria looked down, picking at the food in her bowl. That's just business. There are always ups and downs. Does he need help? I looked directly into her eyes. He is your old classmate, after all. Victoria's eyelashes fluttered. No, it's fine. He can handle it. The protective tone in her voice made my stomach churn. On the way back to the office after lunch, Victoria said she had to stop by the bank. I knew she was going to finalize the transfer. Before we parted, Victoria uncharacteristically kissed me on the cheek. I'll cook dinner tonight. Come home early. Such familiar words. In my last life, it was just a few days after she said this that she poisoned me. Chapter 5. Back in my office, I immediately contacted my friend from the regulatory authority, Henry Asher. Henry, it's worse than I thought. I told him what I'd discovered. They might be involved in cross-border money laundering. Are you sure you want to do this? Henry's voice was serious. Once I launch an investigation, your wife could... I'm sure. I cut him off. I need you to do 2 things for me. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and remotely logged into our home router. 6 months ago, while fixing Victoria's computer, I had quietly installed monitoring software on all our devices. Her browsing history showed that over the past week she had frequently searched for terms like overseas immigration, asset transfer, and extradition treaties. Even better, last night she had spent a full 28 minutes on a real estate website for properties in Panama. Planning to skip town? I sneered, taking screenshots. In my past life, after poisoning me, Victoria had indeed fled to South America with all the money. At exactly 3 p.m., my phone vibrated. It was an encrypted message from Henry. Transfer initiated. Amount $10 million. Recipient is an account at a Cayman Islands bank, matching the one you provided. The authority has flagged the transaction. I let out a long breath and walked to the window, looking down at the company entrance. A few minutes later, Victoria hurried out of the building and hailed a cab. I didn't have to guess where she was going. Julian was waiting for her in his luxury apartment in the East End. I opened the tracking app on my phone. A red dot was moving quickly across the map. The tracking device I'd accidentally dropped in her handbag last month was finally paying off. Enjoy that $10 million, I said softly. After all, it's your last supper. Chapter 6. On my computer screen, I opened another folder containing records of all of Victoria's suspicious financial activities over the past 5 years. As the company's finance director, I had the authority to review all accounts. I had just never thought to be suspicious of my own wife. Now, all of this would become evidence for the court. I grabbed my coat, ready to leave for the day. Victoria had said she would cook tonight, and I still had to play my part in this charade. This time, however, I would ensure that every bite of food would happen to be tasted by her first. After all, the most fitting meal for a murderer is the bitter fruit of their own deeds. The red dot on the tracking app had stopped at the Imperial Hotel. It was the most luxurious hotel in the city, with penthouse suites costing thousands a night, famous for its absolute privacy. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. Even though I was prepared, confirming my wife's affair with my own eyes was still like a dull knife twisting in my heart. In the hotel's underground garage, I put on a baseball cap and a mask and retrieved a black briefcase from the trunk. Inside were high-powered binoculars, a voice recorder, and a long lens camera, all borrowed yesterday from a friend who's a private investigator. The elevators required a key card. I headed for the service stairs. 22 floors. Every step fueled my rage. In my last life, I was too trusting, and that's why I died so horribly. Sir, this is a VIP area. Do you have a reservation? A security guard at the entrance to the top floor hallway stopped me. I pulled out a business card. It bore the title of a well-known financial media outlet. An old university classmate had given it to me, specifically for situations like this. I have an interview with Mr. Croft in 2208, I said without flinching. He should have me registered. The name is Clark. The guard checked his list and sure enough, found Julian's reservation. The rich always love to see their names in the press. Room 2206 to your right, sir. The guard respectfully let me pass.
2206? I scoffed internally.
It seemed Julian had been cautious, registering a fake room number. No matter. Room 2208 was just across the hall, perfect for my plan. Entering 2206, I immediately locked the door and pulled back the curtains. I was familiar with this hotel's design. Each suite had a semi-enclosed scenic balcony, with only a little over a meter separating them. Chapter 7. I took a rope and a safety harness from my bag and fashioned a simple rig. I never thought the skills I learned in my university's rock climbing club would be used to catch my wife cheating. The autumn wind was fierce. At 22 stories up, my legs trembled slightly. But I couldn't back down. I needed irrefutable proof. 1 step, 2 steps. I carefully moved to the edge of 2208's balcony. The curtains weren't fully drawn, and the scene inside was crystal clear. Victoria was straddling Julian's lap, the two of them locked in a passionate kiss. She was wearing the Chanel suit I bought her last year, now being wrinkled by another man's hands. Did the money arrive? Julian asked, breathless, his hand already slipping inside her blouse. Victoria tilted her head back, a seductive look on her face I had never seen before. It was transferred at 3 o'clock sharp. 10 million, exactly. We used an overseas channel, so it's untraceable for now. I raised my camera and took dozens of shots. Through the lens, Julian's greedy expression was sickening. He was fatter than I remembered, his eyes lined with wrinkles, yet Victoria looked at him as if he were a priceless treasure. Your husband didn't find out? Julian lit a cigarette and gave Victoria's backside a casual slap. That idiot? Victoria scoffed, adjusting her clothes. He probably thinks I'm making him a nice dinner tonight. I gritted my teeth, the sound of the camera shutter drowned out by the howling wind. The plane tickets are booked. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., a direct flight to Panama. Julian took 2 passports from the nightstand. Our new identities are all set. Victoria took a passport and flipped through it, then suddenly frowned. Why does my visa expire sooner than yours? Julian's eyes flickered.
It's a policy issue over there. We can extend it once we land. It's the same thing.
I sneered silently. The swindler was obviously planning to ditch Victoria halfway. Is the construction payment issue solved? Victoria asked. I paid the workers a portion of their wages. As for the rest, Julian made a throat-slitting gesture. Once we're abroad, who's going to care? A sharp pain twisted in my gut. Among those workers were fathers with children, men nearly 60 years old. In my last life, after Julian died, many of them never got paid, and their children were forced to drop out of school. By the way, Julian suddenly lowered his voice. Your husband... There won't be any problems, will there? Victoria's expression turned instantly cold. Don't worry. He won't live past next week. My blood ran cold. So Victoria had wanted me dead all along. In my past life, she resented me for getting Julian killed. This time, she wanted to run away with him. I was just an obstacle between them. Chapter 8. Same old plan? Julian asked, pinching Victoria's chin. Yes. Victoria took a small vial from her purse. It's a special compound. The medical examiner's report will look like a heart attack. I recognized that blue vial last week. She told me it was some imported vitamin, and even took one in front of me. It was all an act. Clever, Julian laughed. Once he's dead, you inherit his assets, and we... Who's there? A sharp cry nearly made me lose my grip. A hotel staff member was standing on the adjacent balcony, staring in horror at me, dangling in midair. The room erupted into chaos. I heard Julian's curses and Victoria's screams. No time. I quickly unhooked the safety rope and, in the instant the staff member was distracted, scrambled back into my room. 3 minutes later, I calmly walked out of room 2206, just as the security guards and Julian rushed over. "What happened?" I asked, feigning surprise. Julian eyed me suspiciously. "And you are?" "A reporter from Financial Weekly. I had an interview scheduled with Mr. Croft." I flashed my business card. I was waiting, but no one showed up, so I was just about to leave. Julian visibly relaxed, then tensed up again. "Did you see anyone suspicious just now?" "No," I said, looking completely baffled. "Do you need help?" Luckily, Julian had never seen me before. I only knew what he looked like from photos on Victoria's phone. After dismissing the guards, I walked briskly to the elevator. The plan had changed, but the payoff was far greater than I'd expected. The photos on my camera, the conversation on my voice recorder, it was enough to send that wretched pair to their doom. Chapter 9. The moment the elevator doors closed, I pulled out my phone and made 2 calls. The first was to a friend at a bank. "I need you to freeze an offshore account. The account number is..." The second was to my cousin, Daisy, who worked at a newspaper. "I've got a huge story for you. It's about the renowned entrepreneur Julian Croft's financial fraud and a murder plot." Stepping out of the hotel, the setting sun stretched my shadow long before me. My phone vibrated. It was a text from Victoria. "Honey, I bought your favorite steak. Can you be home by 7? I smiled as I replied, "Of course. I can't wait to taste your cooking. The game has just begun, my dear. This time I will watch you walk into your own graves." I stood at the front door, taking a deep breath before pulling out my key. The aroma of steak wafted from inside. The scent of home that once brought me happiness now just made my stomach clench. "Honey, you're back?" Victoria poked her head out of the kitchen, wearing the apron with the sunflowers on it, the one we bought on our honeymoon in Tuscany. She had a gentle smile on her face, as if she wasn't the one who had been writhing in Julian's arms in a hotel room that afternoon. "Smells delicious." I smiled, putting down my briefcase, my eyes scanning the dining table. Candlelight, red wine, artfully plated steaks, and a bottle of my collectible Lafite standing nearby. She really pulled out all the stops. Victoria came over and kissed my cheek. I forced myself not to pull away. She wore a light perfume that masked the scent of the hotel's shower gel, but I could still smell it, the Imperial's signature lemon verbena. "What's the special occasion?" I loosened my tie, asking casually. "I just wanted to do something nice for you." Victoria handed me a glass of red wine. "You've been so busy with work lately, I've been neglecting you." I took the glass, pretending to sip it, merely letting the liquid touch my lips. In my last life, it was in this very glass that I tasted the bitter almond flavor. At the time, I thought it was just some nut seasoning. "I'm going to go change." I set down the glass and headed for the bedroom. Once the door was closed, I immediately pulled a small blue vial from my pocket. I'd swiped it from her purse while she was busy in the kitchen. I opened it. Inside were a few seemingly ordinary white pills. I quickly tipped one out, replaced it with a vitamin C tablet, and put the vial back where I found it. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Henry. "Account has been frozen. Julian's team has found out. He's furious." Attached was a candid photo of Julian throwing a tantrum in a bank lobby. A cold smirk touched my lips. Let the show begin. Chapter 10. When I returned to the table, Victoria had finished setting the cutlery. She eagerly served the largest piece of steak onto my plate. "Try it. I learned this black pepper sauce recipe just for you. Looks amazing." I cut off a small piece, noticing how her eyes were fixed on my fork. "You eat too. Don't just watch me." Victoria seemed to relax and started eating from her own plate. I took the opportunity to cut my steak into small pieces, then dabbed my mouth with a napkin, spitting the food into it. "By the way," I said, as if it just occurred to me, "where were you this afternoon? I called your office around 3 and Wendy said you were out." Victoria's fork clinked against her plate. "I went to the bank for that new company account." "Oh?" I took a sip of wine. "I heard Julian Croft was at a bank today, too. Apparently he was causing some kind of scene." Victoria's face went deathly pale. How did you know?" "It's all over the company group chat." I showed her my phone. the screen displaying the photo Henry had sent me. I heard his overseas account was frozen. He can't pay the workers he owes. Victoria's hands began to tremble, the red wine sloshing dangerously in her glass. That's terrible, I sighed. Those workers toiled for a whole year just waiting for that money to go home for the holidays. What's it to us? Victoria suddenly shrieked, then, realizing her outburst, reined herself in. I mean, business has its wins and losses, it's normal. Us? I raised an eyebrow. Since when did you and Julian Croft become us? The dining room fell silent. Victoria's pupils constricted like a cornered cat. Ding-dong, the doorbell rang. As if granted a pardon, Victoria practically leaped out of her chair to answer it. I calmly took out my phone, activated the voice recorder, and slipped it into my shirt pocket. Mr. Croft? Victoria's voice was filled with panic. What are you? I walked towards the entrance and saw Julian, his suit disheveled, veins bulging on his forehead, all his usual poise gone. I quickly ducked behind a cabinet, afraid Julian would recognize me. Julian's eyes were like vipers, fixed on Victoria. Our money is gone. Victoria's face was chalk white. That's impossible, I clearly... Victoria looked around as if searching for me, then clamped her mouth shut. A vicious glint flashed in Julian's eyes as he grabbed her wrist. Are you playing me? Chapter 11. I'm not, Victoria struggled. The money was definitely transferred. I saw the system confirmation myself. I silently enjoyed the dog-eat-dog spectacle. Julian's phone suddenly rang, and he answered it gruffly. What a frantic voice came through from the other end. Even without speakerphone, I could make out the gist. Mr. Croft, it's bad the construction site is surrounded by the workers. They said if they don't get paid, going to smash the equipment. The media is here too. Julian's face went from red to ashen, finally settling on a deathly gray. He let go of Victoria and stumbled back a few steps. It's over. It's all over. Victoria cautiously approached him. Do you need my help? What can you do? Julian exploded with rage. 10 million, that was everything. Now the account is frozen, the project is halted, and tomorrow the creditors will. He suddenly realized he'd said too much and shot Victoria a venomous glare. You bitch, just you wait. He turned and stormed out the door. Victoria stood frozen, trembling from head to toe. I suddenly stepped out from my hiding place and turned to face her. Care to explain, my dear wife? Victoria's expression shifted from fear to a monstrous snarl. You did this? Her voice was so shrill it was barely human. Did what? I held up my hands innocently. The frozen account, who else could? Victoria stopped short, a look of dawning horror on her face. You knew? Chapter 12. Knew what? I walked to the sofa and sat down leisurely. Knew that you were embezzling company funds? That you were planning to poison your own husband? Or that you and Julian had plane tickets to Panama for tomorrow? Ashen-faced, Victoria's legs gave out, and she crumpled to the floor. How could you? I know a lot more. I leaned in closer to her. Like how Julian never planned on taking you with him. He booked a one-way ticket for himself. Like how he'd already contacted local gangsters to dump you, the liability, as soon as he landed. You're lying, Victoria shrieked, but the doubt in her eyes betrayed her. I took out my phone and played the conversation I had recorded at the hotel. Julian's voice was perfectly clear. Your visa expires sooner than mine. We can extend it once we land. It's the same thing. Victoria looked as if she'd been struck by lightning, her body going completely limp. Why? I asked softly. Wasn't I good enough for you? Victoria suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with venom. Because you're not even a man 10 years, and you couldn't even give me a child. Julian is my true love. He has been since high school, so that was it. The accusation of infertility was something Victoria had always hinted at in front of our friends. The truth was, a post-nuptial checkup had shown the problem was with her. I never told a soul, protecting her dignity. What about the 10 million? I continued. With the funds gone, the company will definitely call the police. Victoria's expression suddenly turned cunning. You approved the transfer, Director Clark. The documents have your electronic signature on them. I couldn't help but laugh. Forging a director's signature to embezzle funds. That's an additional charge, Manager Vance. The color drained from her face again. What do you mean? I mean, I took a stack of files from my briefcase. I reported the financial anomalies to the chairman weeks ago and was granted special monitoring authority. Every single move you made, including the process of forging my signature, was automatically logged by the system and uploaded to the board's encrypted server. Victoria's face was ashen, her lips trembling, unable to form a single word. Chapter 13. Oh, and this. I pulled out the small blue vial. When were you planning to use it? Tonight? Or after I unexpectedly took out a massive life insurance policy? Victoria finally broke, lunging forward to snatch the vial. Give it to me. I easily dodged her, watching her fall to the floor. The beautiful face that had once captivated me was now twisted into a demonic mask. The police will be here any minute. I glanced at my watch. Embezzlement, forgery, attempted murder. How many years do you think you'll get for that? Victoria suddenly crawled over and clung to my leg. Honey, I was wrong. It was Julian. He forced me. He threatened me. Please, for the sake of our 10-year marriage. I coldly shook my leg free. 10 years? I held up my phone, showing her the pictures of her and Julian at the hotel. Is this what our marriage meant to you? Police sirens wailed outside. Victoria collapsed completely, her eyes vacant. I straightened my tie and walked to the door to greet the police. Before turning, I gave Victoria one last look. By the way, I forgot to tell you Julian's construction site was shut down tonight. All that shoddy cut-corner work he did is enough to keep him in prison until he's an old man. Victoria's screams, accompanied by the sirens, became the most beautiful symphony of the night. The lights in the police station were painfully white. I sat in an interrogation room, the coffee in front of me long cold. On the other side of the one-way mirror, Victoria was being questioned. Her perfect makeup was smeared with tears like a water-damaged oil painting. Mr. Clark, the evidence you provided is very compelling. Officer Davis entered, holding a stack of files. Your wife has confessed to embezzling company funds and attempted murder. I nodded, but my eyes couldn't leave Victoria. She was hysterically pounding the table, screaming at the female officer. It was Julian, that bastard promised to take me abroad. Julian has confessed as well, Officer Davis said with a sneer. Interestingly, he claims everything was Victoria's idea, including, he glanced down at the file, the plan to poison you with cyanide. A cramp seized my stomach. Even though I was prepared, hearing the word cyanide still made me physically ill. In my last life, that's what killed me. Chapter 14. Can you tell me the details? My voice was hoarse. Officer Davis sighed. According to Julian's confession, they planned for you to pass away. Then they would use your wife's inheritance rights to get your property and savings, liquidate the assets, and flee the country. A 10-year marriage, all for a house and some savings? I laughed bitterly. There's more. Officer Davis's expression was complicated. They also took out multiple high-value life insurance policies on you. The beneficiary was Victoria. I froze. So my life was that valuable. No wonder Victoria resorted to poison in my last life instead of just divorcing me. On the other side of the glass, Victoria suddenly turned towards the mirror, as if she could see me, and shrieked, Sincere Clark, you good for nothing. If you weren't so useless, would I be in this mess? Officer Davis cleared his throat awkwardly. She's a bit unstable. It's fine. I stood up. Can I hear Julian's confession? Julian was in another interrogation room, looking even worse than Victoria. His expensive suit was wrinkled like a rag, and a cut on his forehead had scabbed over, no doubt a gift from the angry construction workers. It was all that woman's idea. Julian's voice blared from the speaker. She said her husband was easy to control, that she could get money from the company. The poison? She bought it online. How would I know about that? I sneered. This pair of true loves tearing each other apart in the face of ruin was more dramatic than any soap opera. "Mr. Clark, are you planning to press charges?" Officer Davis asked. Of course. I took a folder from my briefcase. This contains the complete evidence chain, the bank records of the embezzlement, the recording of their conspiracy, and I took out the small blue vial, the lab report on the poison. Officer Davis flipped through the documents, his eyebrows rising higher and higher. "This is enough to put them away for decades." "Not enough," I said softly. "What?" Chapter 15. I opened my phone and played a video. This is from the security camera in the backstage area of the company's annual gala 3 years ago. Julian was there as a supplier representative, and Victoria, in the video, Victoria slipped into an empty meeting room. Julian followed a moment later, and the two immediately fell into a passionate embrace. 3 years. I put my phone away. They've been lying to me for at least 3 years. When I left the police station, the sky was beginning to brighten. I took a deep breath of the morning air, feeling as if the filth had been purged from my lungs. My phone vibrated. It was a text from the chairman's secretary. "Chairman has called an emergency meeting. 9 a.m. sharp. Please be on time." The atmosphere in the company conference room was tense. The chairman, Charles Westwood, an old-school businessman in his 60s, sat at the head of the table, his face grim. On either side were the directors and senior executives, each with a file in front of them. "You all know what's happened." Mr. Westwood's voice was low. "The Victoria Vance embezzlement case has already caused serious damage to the company's reputation." I looked down at the file. It detailed all of Victoria's financial irregularities over the past 3 years, totaling nearly $20 million, even more than I had known. "Director Clark." Mr. Westwood suddenly called my name. "As the head of finance, do you have anything to say?" All eyes in the room turned to me like spotlights. A few directors who had never liked me were already smirking. I rose slowly. "First, I want to apologize to the board for failing to promptly discover my wife's illegal activities." I bowed. "However, the fact is, 2 weeks ago I submitted a report on financial anomalies to the chairman and requested special monitoring authority." The room buzzed with murmurs. Mr. Westwood gave a slight nod, confirming my statement. "Here are the email records and authorization documents from that time. I distributed the materials I had prepared. Due to compliance protocols, I did not disclose this to anyone, including my wife." One of the directors challenged me. "If that's the case, why didn't you stop her after the first infraction?" "Because I wanted to identify all parties involved and trace the full flow of funds." I turned on the projector, and a complex network of financial transactions filled the screen. As it turns out, this wasn't just a simple case of embezzlement. It also involves money laundering activities and construction quality fraud related to Julian Croft's company. The projection switched to a video. It showed Julian at a construction site, directing workers to use substandard materials. These materials don't meet national safety standards, and he was contracted for 3 government projects, including the new wing of the city hospital. The room exploded. The city hospital project was the company's flagship for the year. If something went wrong, the consequences would be catastrophic. 3 hours later, the meeting concluded. Not only had I cleared my name, but I had also received unanimous praise from the board for identifying the problem and taking effective action. Sincere a word. After the meeting, Mr. Westwood called me back. Chapter 16. The old chairman's office was spacious and bright, with a panoramic view of the city. He handed me a glass of whiskey. "You handled that very well." "Thank you, Mr. Westwood. I've been watching you." He took a sip of his drink. "This crisis has proven my judgment you are capable of handling greater responsibility." My heart began to race. "You mean?" "The position of Group Vice President has been vacant for a long time." Mr. Westwood smiled. "At next month's board meeting, I will nominate you." As I left the chairman's office, my legs were trembling slightly. Vice President. It meant entry into the company's true inner circle, a doubled salary, and stock options. A position I had dreamed of in my past life had now fallen into my lap just like that. My phone vibrated again. It was Henry. Victoria confessed to everything. She also provided evidence of Julian's tax evasion. Those two are looking at 30 years, minimum. The workers' wages have been paid out from the court seizure of some of Julian's assets. I texted back my thanks, then deleted all the photos and recordings related to the case. My revenge was complete. It was time to move forward. A month later, the court delivered its verdict. Victoria Vance was sentenced to 32 years in prison for embezzlement and attempted murder. Julian Croft, for contract fraud, gross negligence, tax evasion, and other charges, was sentenced to life without parole. I sat in the gallery, listening calmly to the verdict. There was no thrill of victory, only a sense of release. When I walked out of the courthouse, the sun was dazzlingly bright. Sincere? A familiar voice made me turn around. Sophia Morgan, my university classmate, now a partner at a prestigious law firm, was looking at me in surprise. "It really is you," she said, walking closer. "I saw you on the news. Are you okay?" There was no gossip-mongering curiosity in Sophia's eyes, only genuine concern. We'd had a mutual crush in university, but after graduation we went our separate ways. In my last life, I never contacted her again after I got married. "I'm fine," I said with a smile. "In fact, I've never been better." Sophia hesitated for a moment. "Do you have time for a coffee, just to catch up?" "For old time's sake." Under the sun, Sophia's smile was warm and bright. I nodded. I'd be honored. Walking towards the coffee shop, I glanced back one last time at the courthouse. The story of Victoria and Julian was over, but my new life was just beginning.